Man, that's so hype. We got a little bit of an extra dance this week, Chev. Big reason for it. The calls of the week. We had the Chiefs. They got you 13 points, crushed the Raiders. You love to see it. The Patriots with an epic 19.25 points against your beloved Tennessee Titans. We love them even more because we call the Patriots against them. So the Titans delivered, right? The Bears, 14 and a half points against the Saints. And the Panthers, our most exciting call. Panthers at sub 2%. The third week in a row, we've gone Saints, Raiders, Panthers. 3 weeks in a row. Who else has given you sub 2% rostered defenses and delivered? The Panthers hit 19.5 fantasy points. Now, we did miss one process over results. In a 54.5 over-under game, Matt Gay only delivered, I think it was 2 points. Very tough scene, but process over results, I would go right back to a low rostered kicker, process play on those points. I would get it again. We move on to the next week. But of note, bye weeks, Chev, Cardinals, Lions, Jaguars, Raiders, Rams, Seahawks. There are 6 teams on bye. This is a lean week for your defenses and your kickers. So be very mindful of how you're managing everything. Buyer beware, too. The matchups. Bears, Ravens. I don't know what defenses you want there with Lamar coming back. Commanders, Chiefs. Not sure about that. Although, if Jaden Daniels is out, we will monitor that. Broncos versus Cowboys. Battle of the extremes. Broncos are already highly rostered, and you have that Cowboys epic defense or offense. Sorry. Now, let's pivot to this week. The Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills, Chev, currently over under 47.5. With the Bills, 7.5 point favorites. They get the Panthers on the road. Sleeper, ESPN, 38% Bills rostership, 44% on Sleeper. The Bills have 2 double-digit games this season and manage 8 points on the road against that better offense in the Atlanta Falcons. So as bad as it was, the Bills still managed 8 points 2 weeks ago. Monitor the Bills' injury report to see their health status. Guys like Daquan Jones, who was mentioned as week to week, the defensive tackle. Linebackers Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard, day to day. Ideally, this bye week helps the Bills get back to health. So keep an eye, monitor that. But still a good option, decent shot to try and get you 10. Chev, brag on the New England Patriots for a 3-week run out.
Listen, we've been on it, and hopefully you've been with us. And hey, look, it's still not too late. We're talking about the Patriots taking on the Cleveland Browns, who, I mean, they just scored 30 points or scored more than 17 points for the first time since week 13 of 2024. So, but hey, we're going to say that that's a fluke because we don't care. The Patriots have been playing lights out. So they've given you totals of 11, 19, 5, 19.75, and now and 10.25. So we're talking about a team that's turning the ball over. Shout out to Marcus Jones, their dynamic returner and slot corner. And they get the Browns at home this week. So we're talking about a 3-game run where they've just given you double-digit points every week. They're still less than 20% rostered in a lot of spots. And like I said, they're 88% available on Sleeper, 80% available on ESPN. So there's a good chance that they're still out there. Hopefully
Sorry, Chef. That they're rostered. They're already spoken for. We're just bragging for a 3rd week in a row. Yeah, the seat's taken. I'm sorry.
Listen.
Smoke them if you got them.
I'm gonna look. I didn't want to believe that we had hit. Like sometimes when something hits like this. Anyway, we're not gonna make this show too long. But anyway, they're 88% rostered now. But we just had to take a moment to brag on that. Yep. That's legitimately, I was thinking, I said it backwards because I was like, there's no way that they're 80% rostered. But at any rate, at any point, look, tell us about your play this week against the hapless and hopeless Miami Dolphins.
Ooh, very tough scene for the Miami Dolphins. So this is really a streamer, somebody that you should be able to get. Granted, you have the New England Patriots if you've been listening to us. But the Falcons currently over under, they're going to get the Dolphins 45.5 points. Falcons favored by 7.5. 17% rostership on ESPN, 7% on Sleeper. So if you go to your wire and somebody else has those New England Patriots, they have some of those other higher roster defenses, go out and get yourself some Falcons. Falcons have point totals of 21, 9.25, and 11.5. This is a process play at home. The Falcons generate very good pressure up front. We saw what they did against the Bills. The aim is to force Tua into mistakes, which is very feasible. The Browns got 26.25 fantasy points against the Dolphins in a game where we just want 10 for streaming, right? So sign us up, Atlanta Falcons. And then Chev, keep the faith play. You've got the Philadelphia Eagles. Tell us about the Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay. All right. Listen, guys, this is not the most comfortable, but we're in the middle of an apocalypse. We've alluded to some of the plays that you're going to be left with, if not for having to make this play right here. So we're going back to the Eagles defense versus the Giants. Okay. Just hear me out. So this is, again, we got 6 teams on bye. We're doing the best we can here. Okay. If you miss out on any of the other defenses that we've listed so far, we can still rest assured that the Eagles can still produce on defense. We just got 19 points against the Vikings. The last time Jackson Dart faced the Eagles defense and special teams gave you 1.75 fantasy points. However, this is once is an accident, twice is a trend. The Eagles defense is still a live dog in a week where you don't have very many options. So stick with us here. If you're desperate, this is for the desperate. Hey, the Eagles are the last chick at the bar or whatever you're into. So Jeremiah, why don't you tell us about the look ahead spot for us?
A look ahead spot for the LA Rams versus the Saints. We're picking on the Saints. You notice the theme here. And the beauty is 62% on ESPN. So there's almost 40% out there that you can get. And then on Sleeper, 57%. So it's a good, decent spot, chance, opportunity. And the beauty is the Rams, they go on bye in week 8. So the nice thing is you go on bye in week 8. So there could be some drops. So that percentage will lower. And back-to-back weeks for the Rams, 18.25 fantasy points when we recommended them against the Ravens. And then 12.25 fantasy points against the hapless Jaguars. 5 double-digit fantasy points performances, just missing a 6 with 9.5 in week 3. So a good look-ahead play are the Rams. Let's hear from Podfather about our DFS Dominator.
So let's put our hoodie on and let's talk about Player Profiler's DFS Dominator. It has a cash game optimizer that leverages the projections from Billy and Bradley and Evan and that Player Profiler AI engine to create cash game lineups that certainly have a high floor, but also give you that ceiling. Now, you've probably heard about the most powerful tool of all, our Lineup Genius. We know winning GPPs requires a completely different approach, which is why our Lineup Genius takes you through the process of selecting the quarterbacks in the juiciest matchups. Then it highlights the stacks and runbacks that are available, lets you pick the chalk level, lets you pick the level of correlation with a number of other proprietary settings available to you. Click a button and it generates hundreds of lineups to be imported into FanDuel and DraftKings. And it's just $45 a year, not a week, a year. So go fight fire with a Player Profiler DFS Dominator.
Chev, give us a good word. Blake Grupe, New Orleans Saints.
So we got Blake Grupe taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is a streamer for the bye weeks. I mean, we've given you Fairbairn, we gave you Spencer Schrader, RIP, and now we're giving you Blake Grupe as a 47.5 point over under total kicker. We love to see it. So he's only 1.2% rostered on ESPN, 2% rostered on Sleeper. He had a 3-week stretch where he went 9, 14, and 18. So he had a tough matchup early. The Windy City, it's not going to go well from time to time. So this is a great shot because you've got the Coors Light Dome or whatever, and you get a chance to see, why the other side of why Chase McLaughlin will be highly rostered. So this is a desperation play, but it's a play that I feel like is going to yield results just because that's going to be a game where there's a lot of points scored. So why don't you tell us about your favorite kicker this week?
Hey, Will Reichard, Minnesota Vikings, currently 43.5 over under for the Chargers. The Chargers are favored by 2.5, so this could come down to a sweep of the leg for a game-winning field goal. You've got 7% rostership for Reichard on Sleeper, 4% on ESPN. 18 points against the Philadelphia Eagles. So he's thrived in a great dome matchup. And then you get a good indoor matchup this week, Thursday Night Football against the Chargers. This could end up being a 2-week good run out as you pick up Will Reichard, because the Vikings get to play the Lions in week 9 on the road. So 2 good opportunities, and we'll see what happens with JJ McCarthy coming back. But he's hot, and we're just going to ride that, especially at a lower rostership. Now, Chev, the people love them, some Eddy Pineiro. Let's give it to him.
Hey, shout out to everybody for asking us about Eddy Pineiro, and shout out to Theo Grimminger for letting everybody know on the Twitter Xverse that he's the second ranked kicker behind Brandon Aubrey since week 2. So this is a 43.5 point over under in perfect weather conditions. He's 66% rostered on Sleeper, 49% rostered on ESPN. And we're going to get a chance to get him on Sleeper more so, obviously. But this is just a great environment. He's been really consistent. 10, 12, 17, 18, and 4 10-point games. That's more than you could ever ask for picking up a guy off the waivers. So why don't you tell us about a guy who's being slept on and get us in the loop?
Get us in the loop, man. Let's get back into the loop with Tyler Loop. This was a earlier season recommendation that was working for us. Then, of course, you had Lamar Jackson get hurt. Currently, over-under is 49.5. Again, shootout city. You want to get that shootout, that high over-under total. Favored by 5.5 are the Ravens. So against the Bears, 28% Loop on ESPN, 23% on Sleeper. Okay, recall that Tyler Loop had 13, 12, 7, and 9 in his first 4 games. The Ravens lose Lamar Jackson. It tanked their offense. You get Lamar back. You chase the points. Tyler Loop is back in home, play versus the Bears. This sets up nicely for a shootout, and you have the depressed rostership numbers. So you ask for these sorts of things. 6 teams on bye. You need a kicker. Go out and get in the loop with Tyler Loop. We will see you next week.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to PlayerProfiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, Data Analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.